Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options and Play video update. So it's really the main event. We're coming into the busiest week of earnings by a wide margin, just huge names every single day. And my motto for this quarter, and I was talking about this earlier in the week on our options session, was my motto is play them if they pay them. All right. So normally earnings season come in looking to open up risk, go after a bunch of different names reporting. But what I've noticed, and I'm sure you probably have too, if you've been following earnings, is that the last 2 quarters, a lot of more muted moves, a lot of sell the news, right? When it comes to like these earnings plays, so if they're going to start paying options, then I'll start playing options. If they're not paying options, then not going to be playing as many options, right? So we'll see how the week goes. It would be nice. It'd be great if they really start to open them up, see some huge moves. But got to take it as we see it, right? And if they're not rewarding risk, then I'm not going to be taking as much risk. Okay. So now, Monday before the open, checkpoint about 7:25. Those are monthly options. I am not really interested in checkpoint for a trade, but it is a busy week for cybersecurity names. Palo Alto, PA&W, a name that doesn't report. So maybe an opportunity for a sympathy play there with all the names scheduled. After the close on Monday, NXPI. So another big week for semis too. About 11 points is what they're expecting here. This has been a leading name, autofocus too, so still kind of riding that tailwind. I'm not sure if it's a great earnings setup, but it could be a nice swing trade candidate post report. Uh, Tesla. So 60 points is what they're expecting. What's up with Tesla? Everybody keeps asking. It's been kind of out of play for a couple months, coming off a mixed quarter where it actually sold off pretty sharply. Deliveries were solid at the beginning of April, but expectations, they have a way of inching higher with when it comes to Tesla. I'm not sure that the option pricing leaves much room. So I think it comes down to picking direction, and if you have a direction, then I feel like maybe this is something you retain. I maybe would favor the bull side, but I don't have as much conviction, so I'm kind of on the fence with it. For the open on Tuesday, a few industrials. 3M priced in about 7 points. So let's go through all. So 3M about 7 points. GE about 80 cents or so, and then UPS is pricing at about 9. So of the three, GE looks like it might be the best setup to move, just because it's been kind of quiet and been in like kind of like a tightening range. But also FedEx doesn't report next week. UPS does, so it could present like a sympathy trade potential, right? Because those two are pretty closely correlated. UPS reports, FedEx doesn't. All right. After the close on Tuesday, big tech night. So AMD about 6 points or so. This has really been lagging. Coming off a big beat and raise, though. I mean, Nvidia has been humming along. Intel was close to a 52-week high a couple weeks ago. So this has really been lagging those. Option pricing isn't cheap, but there also seems to be a chance for this to really turn the corner if the numbers are good. Plus, there's some room to the upside, so I might look at something speculative on the bull side there. Google, so about 110 points is what's priced in here. It's been a leader, barely pulled back. Stock acts fantastic, but with great performance comes higher bar for earnings, right? So I imagine the numbers are solid, but it's really hard to determine whether laying out the money for options is going to get rewarded, or if this is like one of those scenarios where the good news is already priced in. FireEye, so about $1.60 is what it's expected. Occasionally a mover, pricing's not too bad, but it may not be a focus for me because it is a busy week. And again, I mean, Palo Alto, one of the names that doesn't report, so maybe that moves along with it. Microsoft, another big name. So 925 is what's expected here, and to me, it's basically the same story as Google. Plus, just have the added bonus of them just doing a bigger deal. So I don't know if that might kind of impact it a bit. But I mean, the stock acts fantastic, but with that, higher bar for earnings, and it only closed up marginally last quarter after beat and raise. So it's kind of hard to figure out if there's a trade here, especially because the options seem kind of expensive to me. Pinterest. So about 9.5 points is what priced in on this. Snap was solid, which may be a good side for Pinterest, because those two have performed pretty in line with one another recently. This is right at the bottom of its trend. It did have a negative note last week, which knocked it really sharply lower. But that may have actually created a better bull pattern because it kind of set the bar a little bit lower, put the stock off its high. So um, I guess the way I see it is that Snap maybe positive read through, but also same time lackluster report could take a toll just based off where it's sitting, right? Like because like a serious breakdown would lose trend support. So maybe a volatility strategy candidate if able to get risk down on it. Starbucks, about 4.5 points is what's expected here. Great trendy name recently, but not a great earnings name recently. Moves around earnings have been pretty smaller, so I'm not sure I'm going to lay out the money for this one, but maybe a post earnings swing trade idea. And then Visa, another big name. About 7 points is what's expected on this. AXP was hit after reporting mixed numbers. Visa, Mastercard both traded higher though. Stock is at a 52-week high, and feels like the bar is probably higher on this one. I mean, this is definitely going to set the tone for Mastercard, which reports later in the week. But in terms of the actual setups, I actually think Mastercard looks more interesting because Mastercard hasn't broken out. It's right at a big level, whereas Visa's already broken out. So Visa's first, so it's going to set the tone for Mastercard, but I actually think Mastercard setup-wise is more interesting. Before they open on Wednesday, Boeing. So about 10.5 points is what they're looking for in this one. Always seems to be in the headlines for some reason or the other. It's been a while since it's had a big earnings reaction, though. Option pricing, it's actually not too bad considering how much it typically moves on a given week. But if earnings aren't a huge catalyst, which they haven't been lately, there may be an opportunity to get those like weeklies cheaper post earnings. So I'm kind of on the fence with whether or not an earnings trade is like the way to go about it. Shop. About 80 to 82 points is what they're looking for. Numbers have been bonkers on this, but earnings have not been getting rewarded on it recently. Closed red 2 quarters in a row after big beats. Maybe this time's different, right? Just because it's way off its high, hasn't done a whole lot the last couple months. They are pricing in a pretty big move, though, so I think any trade here would be speculative. Spot. About 23 points is what they're pricing on this one. Consistent history of selling off on earnings lately. And I mean, plus seeing that across a lot of tech. So, I guess history on this says bearish. So I don't know if I'm going to play it, but I mean, that seems to be the pattern on it. After the close on Wednesday, another big tech night. It's basically a big tech week every day. 6 points is what they're looking for in Apple. I'd say the 3 mega caps with the most interesting setups are Facebook, Amazon, and Apple. So Apple is off its high, been consolidating for about 2 weeks, coming off a big beat and raise in January. Seems like a good quarter could put this on a path back to like the 140 plus area, and the option price isn't too crazy. Also, it's been kind of a solid swing trade name recently, and it tends to go on these like nice trends. So it could be a trade after if you didn't want to take the earnings risk. Facebook, 17.5 points is what's priced on this. Put in a new 52-week high a couple weeks ago. It's pulled back. They've just been a beat and raise machine for a long time. So going with history, I'd be thinking positive here. That 1 trillion market cap, I mean, I still have it in the back of my mind. I mean, it's so close, and the stock just needs a sustained push past like 315, 320 to really get it rolling. So definitely more speculative, but there might be some potential, especially something like further out of money. eBay, about $4 is what they're looking for on eBay. It's held in surprisingly well compared to most e-commerce stocks. It's had a really big pop on earnings last quarter. This move. Kind of back to that level now. Options are priced lower than what it moved last quarter, so if it moves what it did last quarter, then option pricing's cheap. If it doesn't, I mean, it hasn't been a focus of mine, so I don't know if I'm going to do anything with it. But compared to what it moved last quarter, the options are priced significantly less. Qualcomm, about 725 is what they're looking for in this one. I wish option pricing was just a little bit lower, but the stock does seem due for a pretty big move. I mean, it got hit very hard last quarter, has rolled all the way down, closed the gap from November, but it's been choppy, and I feel like this is like a setup for like a snapback print. I mean, if they can really deliver, semis have been better. There's some room to the upside. Um, I have to get risk down on it, but it is an interesting pattern. ServiceNow, about $35 is what they're looking for here. Top software name, uh, but you know what? I might use this more of a gauge of what risk mentality is like in the software sector, because it's been a consistent beat and raise company. I mean, the moves around earnings have been a little bit lower though, so I think I might just see how it reacts and see if that kind of sets the tone with, or maybe gives me more of like a clue as how I want to approach other software reports, like later in the week or the following week. All right, before they open on Thursday, so Bristol Myers priced in about $2, and actually Merck, which is priced in at about 2.5. I'd say of those two, Bristol Myers to me seems more interesting because it's hovering right under this huge 68 yearly resistance range. Um, if they can deliver, if we can get through 68, there could be a really big pent-up breakout. So I think I'll be watching that one. Cat, about 9.5 points is what's priced in here. Stock X great. I mean, look at this chart, but it definitely seems to have a higher bar this quarter. There have been a few sells on the news in the top industrial so far too. So, I mean, it is definitely a type pattern. I'm on the fence with it because I think the bar is higher this time around. So maybe more of like wait and see how the week goes. Mastercard, I was talking about before, pricing in 14. You can see it bumping up right into like this high. So we'll see what Visa, how much it moves Mastercard, and see if there's a trade left. But kind of an interesting one. And then lastly on Thursday before the open, Overstock. So about 10 points is what they're looking for. Crypto side, not helping, but e-commerce, I mean, that's still where all the revenues come from. Just had a trade on this, so I'm not sure I'm dying to get involved again, but it does tend to move quite a bit on earnings. So volatility strategy might be something to look at. After the close on Wednesday, Amazon, a huge one. 155 points is what's expected. Probably would have been up a bunch last quarter had the Bezos news not come out. Stock's still in a long range and in need of a really strong report to finally get it through 3,500. If it does, then there could be a lot of potential and finally break out and have like a sustained move. So it needs a few pieces to fall into place, but this one seems to have a lot of potential if it's good and it can get through 3,500. So definitely more speculative. Team, big software report. The price in 16 points. They already guided initial numbers just last week, so that's an avoid in my book. But definitely a big software name. Dexcom, about 39 to 40 points is what's priced in. Those are monthly options. Every couple quarters, I feel like it has a huge move, and it's been kind of quiet lately. Was a high-flying medtech name for a while, but kind of cooled off. I mean, if they can deliver and this kicks into gear, I mean, there's been stretches where this thing has really rallied aggressively. So it's not really in play right now, but like the line between not in play and in play seems like it could be pretty narrow depending on how this earnings go. First Solar, so about 6.5 points is what's priced in here. This is interesting because it's the first of the solar stocks, so I think volatility could be higher around this one. It hasn't really been in play the last couple months, but it does occasionally move a lot on earnings. Maybe more speculative, but could set up well for a volatility strategy. Neo. So about 375 is what's priced in on Neo. Just starting to turn the corner out of like this really nice like lower pennant pattern. Monthly delivery numbers remove a lot of the uncertainty, or also volatility on earnings. So it's not typically a huge mover. Technically, I feel like it looks great, and I feel like it's starting to make a little bit of a move. And I feel like personally this might be more of like a swing trade idea for me versus like an actual earnings trade idea, especially if the premiums come down post earnings. Skyworks. So about 10 points is what they're looking for here. I was thinking this could be a decent earnings play, but now that it just popped, they just had a deal announced Thursday after the close. Not so sure. Right at the high, and it is coming off like a big beat and raise quarter. I imagine the numbers are good. I guess I'm just not sure about the potential up here. Um, Maybe more of a speculative name for me. I kind of on the fence with it. Twitter. So they're pricing in 7 points. So after Snap and Pins, I feel like the expectations are going to be pretty set for this. There have been some big moves on this lately, though. So if it does run on Pins, the bar is probably going to be higher, and maybe you look to go the opposite way. But I mean, this is one where I feel like Pin, Snap, and Twitter. I mean, they've all kind of moved in tandem with one another. So kind of have to see how it reacts to Pinterest and how the week goes. But I mean, this could definitely still be a mover by the time Thursday afternoon rolls around. All right, Friday before the open, AbbVie, about 3.5 points is what they're pricing in here. Top farmer name. It's been acting great. Earnings wise, I'm not sure it's gonna be a huge mover, but it does look like it has some breakout potential. And the breakout could be significant too. So this might be something I look at post earnings to see if it continues to set up well for a bullish trade. And then lastly, Chevron, which is pricing in 3.5 points, and Exxon, which is pricing in 2. Um, I haven't traded the energy names much this year, and I guess I'm not sure I'm going to start on earnings. I will say though that Exxon been kind of like a tight range, and it looks due for a move. Chevron a little bit less so, but those two do tend to move together. But you know, huge names in the sector, and what they do is probably going to impact a lot of other names. So there could be some money moving around in the energy stocks Friday morning. And that's it. So just an absolutely slammed week of earnings. Huge names every single day. Tons of news. Hopefully, tons of great action. We'll see. We'll see, right? One day at a time. All right. So if you like this video and you're looking for more information on trading earnings with options or swing trading with options, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options and play. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Stay well, and I will talk to you all on Monday.